The night sky erupted in a blaze, flames leaping 20 feet above Willow Lake, turning the water into a mirror of fire. Screams pierced the air as Margaret Hensley, the HOA president, clutched her phone, shrieking about being the victim. I stood barefoot on my weathered dock, watching my cherished fishing boat crackle and dissolve into the lake's depths. That's me, Henry Caldwell, and this is how a petty neighborhood feud turned into an inferno of vengeance. Years ago, I settled into a ramshackle house on the edge of Willow Lake, a slice of paradise where dawn painted the water gold and the air carried the scent of pine and liberty. My 2-acre plot, fringed with wild grass and ancient oaks, sat just beyond the manicured grip of the Willow Creek Estates HOA. Deeds, maps, and tax records confirmed my land was free from their rules. After grueling days balancing county budgets or glad-handing at galas, I'd slip down to my splintered dock, rod in hand, and fish until the lake burned red at sunset. The lake was public, a remnant of old ranching days, open to anyone under County Ordinance 24-113. I wasn't throwing parties or stirring trouble, just fishing quietly, minding my own business. Trouble found me anyway. Margaret Hensley stormed onto my dock one afternoon like a general inspecting a battlefield. I just landed a hefty base, wiping my hands on my jeans, when her sharp throat-clearing cut through the calm. Arms crossed, visor tilted like a drill sergeant's cap, she clutched a clipboard tight enough to splinter it. "Do you have permission to fish here?" she snapped, her smile dripping with suburban superiority. I kept my tone light, tipping my hat. "Sure do, ma'am. Lake's public. County Ordinance 24-113. Her eyes narrowed, and she stepped onto my dock uninvited, her pristine sneakers clicking. "This is Willow Creek property," she barked. "Fishing requires HOA approval." I chuckled, explaining my land and the lake were outside her control, but her glare told me this wasn't over. 2 days later, a $250 fine for unauthorized use of HOA amenities appeared taped to my door, written in bold red like I'd robbed a bank. I laughed, crumpled it, and tossed it into my fire pit, a move I'd later regret. Notices piled up: fishing without permit, unauthorized dock maintenance, improper boat storage. Each was more absurd than the last, but my lawyer confirmed they were toothless. The HOA's reach ended at my property line. Still, their campaign wasn't just paper. Neighbors' friendly waves turned to curt nods. Invitations to barbecues vanished. One morning, I caught Mrs. Larson across the street filming me as I launched my boat, pretending to water her plants. Another day, someone scrawled "Lake Rules, Residents Only" in chalk across my driveway. I hosed it off, smiling, refusing to give them the outburst they craved. I played the long game, logging every incident in a leather-bound book: dates, times, photos. When Margaret sent a violation claiming my boat trailer was misparked, I snapped timestamped pictures proving it was legal. When her lackey blocked the public boat ramp with cones, I called the sheriff to clear them. Each move was calculated, a chess game against opponents used to bullying the timid. But the pressure wore on me. I'd scan for prying eyes before heading to the lake, and evenings once spent with a cold beer now carried a tense edge. HOA patrols cruised by at night, headlights raking my dock like a prison spotlight. I'd wave cheerfully, coffee thermos in hand, never letting them see me flinch. Margaret escalated through sneaky channels. Anonymous emails demanded I respect community standards or leave. I traced them to HOA board members and forwarded them to my lawyer. The fines kept coming, each one bolder. One evening, I found a private lake access sign nailed to the public dock. I ripped it down and left it at the HOA office as silent warning they ignored. Deep down, I relished the fight, the strategy, the inevitable checkmate. They didn't know I wasn't just a fisherman. I was Henry Caldwell, a county governor who'd carved through political jungles with a smile, a man who crushed opponents without raising his voice. The second month brought open warfare. A neon orange ticket for illegal street parking appeared on my truck, parked squarely in my own driveway. Another cited improper mailbox installation, referencing a non-existent rule. Violations flooded in: unapproved plantings for wildflowers, fire hazard for stacked firewood. It was laughable but deliberate, a plan to drown me in paperwork until I fled. They'd misjudged their target. I'd face down corrupt officials and vengeful prosecutors. Margaret's clipboard army didn't scare me. Then they got dirty. One evening, I found rotting garbage, construction debris, glass, nails dumped in my yard. I filed a report, knowing it'd go nowhere, but every brick built my case. Days later, my boat bore a long scratch down its side, followed by slashed trailer tires, cut with surgical precision. I replaced them quietly and installed hidden cameras. Whispers reached me that Margaret was pushing a fishing ban at an HOA meeting. A neighbor, Clara, slipped me the tip with a plate of cookies, warning they'd try to force me out. I smiled, knowing no bylaw could override county law. The sabotage intensified. My fishing lines were cut and retied with knots meant to snap, risking injury. My tackle box was ransacked, lures destroyed. Fear flickered in my gut. They weren't just annoying me. They wanted to hurt me. I added motion sensors and floodlights. 2 nights later, my cameras caught a figure creeping toward my boat, wire cutters in hand. I watched, heart pounding, as they fumbled with the trailer lock before fleeing. Zooming in, I recognized Paul Whitaker, HOA's secretary and Margaret's loyal stooge. I saved the footage, my evidence pile growing. Anonymous letters arrived, typed and unhinged. You don't belong here. Accidents happen. I handled them with gloved hands, filing them away. Margaret thought she could scare me, but she was an amateur compared to the real threats I'd faced. I kept fishing daily, my presence a deliberate taunt, waving at her patrols while she seethed from her porch. They didn't know they were fighting a man whose name made councilmen tremble, a governor who could ruin lives with a phone call. The morning they tried to tow my boat, I was sipping coffee when a tow truck rolled up. Lakeview Recovery slapped on its door. 2 men, a lanky one, and a hulking brew headed for my boat. HOA ordered an unauthorized watercraft removal, the lanky one said. I laughed. Got a county writ? This is private property. Touch it, and it's grand theft. My phone was already recording. They muttered and sped off. Margaret watched from her yard, face red with fury. You're making this harder than it needs to be, she shouted. I waved my phone. Hope you like viral videos, because that's Exhibit A. That night, my alarms blared. Camera feeds showed hooded figures by my boat, one pouring something into the gas tank, sugar, meant to ruin the engine. By the time I reached the dock with my shotgun, they'd vanished. The boat was a mess, seats slashed, windshield cracked, hull gouged. I filmed every detail and called the sheriff, knowing small-town politics would slow any action. The next day, during the Willow Creek Community Day, they crossed the final line. Kids ran wild, booths lined the shore, and Margaret buzzed about, clipboard in hand, smirking my way. I stayed by my battered boat, refusing to back down. Mid-afternoon, a sweet, acrid smell hit me. Smoke curled from my boat's stern, then flames roared. The crowd screamed, kids cried, and phones came out. I grabbed my extinguisher, but the fire was too fierce. The fiberglass split with sharp pops, my boat burning alive. Margaret played her part, shouting, "This is why we have rules," and blaming my noncompliance. I filmed, staying calm, as she handed police a stack of fake documents, doctored photos, forged violations painting me as a menace. Deputy Larson, who knew me from county meetings, took my statement. I offered my footage and logs, but Margaret's theatrics swayed the crowd. The police filed an open report, suggesting I remove unsafe structures. Margaret smirked, thinking she'd won. But she'd poked a sleeping bear, and I was awake, hungry. The next morning, I unleashed hell. I wasn't just a fisherman, I was the county governor, a man who'd toppled empires in boardrooms. I called the building department to audit the HOA's permits, the assessor's office to probe their taxes, and the investigations division to sniff out fraud. My word alone launched subpoenas. I visited Sheriff Daniels, an old friend, and laid out my evidence, videos, threats, sabotage. Loud or quiet? He asked. Loud, I said. The HOA's emergency meeting was packed, residents restless after the fire. Margaret took the stage, promising safety, but Sheriff Daniels burst in with deputies, serving subpoenas for fraud, harassment, and property destruction. Margaret's face cycled through shock and rage. Paul Whitaker sank in his seat. The crowd erupted, demanding answers about missing dues and unfair fines. Investigations exposed the HOA's rot, skimmed funds, fake contracts, tax fraud. Lawsuits buried Margaret and her board, their assets frozen, reputations shattered. The HOA dissolved by a 78% vote, Margaret banned from any HOA role. I bought her foreclosed house at auction, raised it, and built a public fishing dock where her living room once stood. The opening was a triumph. Barbecue, music, kids laughing, free fishing for all. A plaque read, "In honor of public access and the spirit of the lake." Margaret fled 3 counties away, Paul vanished, and the rest faded into obscurity. Now, I fish Willow Lake daily, coffee in hand, on that sturdy dock. Neighbors bring pies, fish alongside me, and breathe easier, knowing their lake is free. Some battles are worth fighting, and some victories like watching the sunrise over a lake no bully can claim are sweeter than any fish you'll ever catch.